Described as the AI arms race, a new wave of generative artificial intelligence, which can produce pictures or text in response to prompts, is being rolled out at a dizzying pace, each company hoping theirs will become the go-to product of the future. The promise here is a tool that can summarise stories, write code, produce letters, or even poetry within seconds, has almost endless uses. Yesterday, Google even announced plans to incorporate AI into its search, so when users type in a question, a short summary answer will be generated automatically. At the moment, users will have to opt in, but the momentum is for further integration. While the companies compete, though, countries are in their own race for regulation. There could be an advantage in getting there first and setting the global standard. And whatever the promise of AI, there are clear risks to be managed.
It can be inaccurate to give you a cocktail recipe, but it doesn't matter if you're integrating it into diagnosing whether patients have a serious disease, for example. It can be discriminatory. For example, the UK's automatic passport photo tech was shown to be biased against people with darker skin back in 2020, and Amazon's recruitment algorithm that they briefly tested famously didn't recommend any women for interview.
Guardrails for how these tools are designed are being used and written worldwide. The EU have put together a comprehensive AI Act which passed a committee vote today, and it centres on 4 layers. Unacceptable risks like real-time facial recognition in public spaces will be banned. High risks like AI used in education and employment will be subject to strict controls, including which data can be used to train that system in the first place. And at the other end, minimal risks like video games can be freely used. But categorising everything comes with drawbacks. This law has been in development since 2021, before this latest AI explosion.
So they've effectively had to scramble and rewrite the law in the last couple of months. And so I have great concerns about how sustainable such a proposal will be, given how exponentially, how these technologies accelerate exponentially.
China has also quickly set out draft regulations for this new generation of generative AI. The priority there appears to be domestic security. For instance, it suggests any generated content should reflect socialist core values. But experts say there are still lessons for the rest of the world.
In a lot of ways, some of the things that China has built, some of the requirements it's built, are very similar to what US civil society has advocated. Some researchers, both in Google and externally, advocated for a system in which you have to disclose, what data is the system trained on? What biases does it have? That's almost exactly what is built into China's algorithm registry itself. Now, in China, that information goes to the government and puts it to its own ends, but we can see whether that's sort of feasible.
There is, of course, another approach, one which asks whether we need to produce brand new regulations for this brand new challenge.
When you think about it, these AI tools and technologies come down to 3 essential building blocks. There's data, there are people involved in building these tools and technologies, and there are corporations. And you don't have to be a lawyer to recognize that data, people, and corporations are all subject to existing laws and regulations, so that we don't have to always wait for new AI-specific laws and regulations.
That is similar to the approach the UK is taking. In March, the government set out what it called a pro-innovation approach. Instead of a whole new regulator, existing bodies will instead be asked to react to AI in their domain. The pace of AI does demand a response. There are clear challenges to regulating a technology that could be used by anyone for almost anything. But there are also rewards for winning the regulatory arms race, giving users confidence in the safety of this new tech.
Let's talk now to Priya Lakhani, who is the founder of CEO of Century Tech, which is an artificial intelligence education technology company. Priya, welcome to Newsnight.
Thank you.
Can you explain AI in simple terms, please?
Yes, absolutely. So not all AI is equal. I think that's the first thing. So we have generative AI, which everyone's become quite excited about, with, for example, ChatGPT that lots of people have been playing on. That artificial intelligence technology has been built to generate media, generate content like text, images, and so most AI, it's very, very popular to use what's called machine learning. You'll hear these words sort of in these terms interchangeably, but essentially it's a supervised system that will generate text and media. Then you have non-generative AI, and this is the AI that most of you are used to on your smartphone. So for example, if you're shopping on Amazon or you're watching movies on Netflix and they have recommender systems, or you've heard of some fantastic healthcare applications where people have been looking at patterns in data to be able to spot, for example, particular conditions that then might lead to, predictions in, areas of cancer or medical research. So that is AI that is trained on data, making recommendations, potentially offering decisions up, and it's not generating any content, but yet it's producing recommendations and nudging you in a certain direction.
The speed of AI is rapid. It is progressing rapidly. Is that speed something that we should be concerned about?
So because not all AI is equal, I think it's really, really positive to think about the narrow positive use cases such as healthcare that I mentioned. Biotech, DeepMind, managed to predict protein structures and how they unfold, so that we have sped up drug discovery to combat malaria, resistance to antibiotics. In my case, firsthand, I've seen in education how you can use an AI system to predict how you, Victoria, learn, where you might struggle before you struggle, to stop any child being stuck and actually doing better in your exams and your outcomes in education. Wow. So where those positive, narrow cases are concerned, well, we'd love to speed that up, because the use cases in society are tremendously positive and significant.
But the
However,
risks?
Well, this is the issue. So large language model technology, which is what everyone's used to in terms of ChatGPT, that has, I think, surprised a lot of people, including technologists, in terms of its sophistication. And what people are really worried about is, because regulation is chasing innovation, and obviously we've seen today the EU has made steps forward towards the AI Act, the UK has announced light touch regulation in this area. The issue is that that particular technology that's trained on the internet and that everyone's using has the ability at scale, if in the hands of bad actors, for example, spread fake news and disinformation. Now, if you've got a third of people in the UK, I just looked this up, use social media to receive their news feeds, that sort of information and the way in which this AI is developing should surely affect, for example, policymakers. So the big debate about the BBC licence model, right? That's been contentious for some time. Actually, should we be in a rush not to protect forensic journalism that protects a democracy that's the eyes and ears of the public?
But we already get misinformation and disinformation. So why is AI a further risk?
Because this technology is so much more sophisticated. Because
so we won't know it's a bad actor.
It will. It's read everything.
So it's read everything on the internet.
So it can deceive you. It knows how to deceive you.
Right.
And it can be used now at scale. If you converge social media technology with the idea that this technology can create content in the hands of a bad actor who maybe wants to sway an election, right? Maybe wants to spread misinformation, disinformation about vaccines. Can you imagine the scale at which these people will be able to do that? And then Geoffrey Hinton, who's the godfather of artificial intelligence, one of the godfathers of artificial intelligence, recently left Google. And we ought to heed his advice in other areas too. So if this technology is going to be used at scale, what does that mean in terms of the displacement of jobs and skills, right? When we have lots of people in the education system leaving formal education with memorisation strategies as their sort of foremost strategy, then what happens when jobs that involve transactions and processing are all displaced? Are we going to have a basic income? And then he talks about super intelligence, essentially erasing humanity, which is incredibly extreme in some senses, but you can't dismiss it.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank
you
you
for talking to our audience on Newsnight. Thank you.